Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Merge Roundtable. I'm your host, Mark Hopkins. I am joined today with Frank Kushner, Jim Durbin, and Dina Abdul. Very full house. We're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff today. Some stuff in crypto, some stuff in finance, and some stuff on LinkedIn, I guess. So stick around. We'll be right back after this. So, hello everyone. I'm curious. Do you mute our mics during the intro?
Yes.
I've never actually asked, but we always talk during the intro.
And the bear said, "I didn't know that was the Pope." That's a great joke.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
y'all are muted during the
okay.
intro.
During most of the show too, I'm assuming as well. So so today we got like a bunch of. It was a weird news week. Not a lot of last week was dominated by a bunch of thematically related stuff. This week is. I had to really dig to find some interesting things that are in our wheelhouse to talk about. But the big news that is today, and it gets into one of my favorite conspiracy theories in crypto of the last couple of years, is the Crocodile of Wall Street case, or the crypto couple, I suppose. You guys any familiar with this case at all? Or briefly recap it.
Recap. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so the full backstory goes back many years. It's one of the first major exchange hacks, Bitfinex, which is still one of the world's largest crypto exchanges. It's the exchange most closely associated with the stablecoin Tether. They're corporately entwined. So, but they were hacked to the tune of several $100 million, which it was taken in Bitcoin at the time. So now the amount of Bitcoin that was stolen at that point is worth
4.5 billion.
Correct, which makes it, when it was seized and found in the Dropbox account of one of the people that pled guilty today, the largest seizure of money by any government ever in history. In any single case, like it's
They
never
say crime doesn't pay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, government made out like a bandit. Ha.
Nice one.
Literally.
I like that. That's good.
So
That's good.
there's a lot of things that make this story interesting. I think the one, I mean, this would be just another exchange hack. Even numbers aren't really that sexy in crypto anymore. When you're talking about billions of dollars, it doesn't really make a blip on the radar. But when I have Sohail play, you got the clip ready? When I have Sohail play this clip, you're going to remember who it is I'm talking about.
Are we supposed to do background voices for this?
No, you will be too stunned to speak. So this is the wife's rapper name, Razzle Khan.
I like those sunglasses.
Yeah, and she fancied herself. This is basically what do you call this, zero interest rate behavior? I mean, like basically.
Yeah.
That is literally Wall Street.
I think this is the next agency representing
Okay, wait,
Anheuser-Busch too. So
What did I just see? What's going on?
This is exactly
I'm so confused.
everybody's reaction. So nobody knew who this person was until her and her husband were arrested. I mean, like a few people did. She would show up at
the
conferences.
good criminals
and
are
stuff
always
like
the
that.
quietest. Everybody knows
But
that.
that's not quiet.
Oh, yeah.
This was like her entire
Literally
TikTok
a
channel.
That's why she's not.
Yeah.
Is there any way
Wait,
I
is
can
that me?
unsee this?
Next to her?
It is not.
The blue shirt? Is that?
That would be funny, actually.
You know what's great about that? I mean, you see people filming like that on the streets of New York all the time. You have no idea. You don't care. You're thinking they're just TikToking. Who cares who they are? I did something similar yesterday. I had a check that actually arrived for a client's rollover from retirement. It was a big check and came in regular mail. I'm like, it's like, I guess I'll just bring it, deposit it at a branch.
Did
right?
you have to go to the bank? Did
So
you have to
I
leave early
actually-
so you had to go to the bank in
I
person?
put on my flip flop. I looked like a homeless person walking into this branch office, and I
Or
was
a
like,
crypto guy,
"I need
yeah.
a deposit." And they're just staring at me like, "Who is this guy?" And I was like, "I just hid in plain sight, just dressed like a scumbag,
Yeah.
and made a deposit for a huge check." And they're just like looking at me. All right,
Yeah.
see you later.
Yeah. You got a suspicious activity report filed on you yesterday.
yeah.
For sure.
kind of goes back to media and the importance. So did she tell on herself? Is this what's going on right now?
So the rest of the story is they found this. They did some very elaborate, supposedly some very elaborate money laundering. Up until today, it wasn't known that the husband was the man behind the hack. It was just thought that they were involved in the laundering of the funds from the hack, the proceeds from the hack. I was of the opinion that it was even like a deeper than that. I thought they might have been framed because the man is well, she's obviously not competent at anything. Like she's not even competent at rapping. She's just
That wasn't good.
I think that slapped. I'm sorry. That's
you got to watch more.
It's
It actually looks like a parody of a song of. It
This is-
almost looks like it's comedy.
It feels a little bit like the Allen fathers doing their raps for their daughters' dance days.
This is
It kind of reminds me of Weird Al.
Rebecca Black. I was gonna say, but
Weird
yeah.
Al when he used to do the Michael Jackson parody.
Rebecca Black and Weird Al, which I've learned from you, Dina,
Sorry.
are both awesome.
Love
so
Weird Al.
not bad
Weird
comparisons.
Al's
He
great.
didn't know either one of those.
So at any rate,
No.
the husband, on the other hand, is a actually fairly well accomplished cybersecurity expert, and the way in which he got caught with it was that the wallet.dat file, which is the file that is generated by some older Bitcoin wallets, was found in his Dropbox through just like kind of a random, because the feds like to peek into your cloud storage every once in a while if they suspect you of something, and they just found the big pile of money that he stole, the biggest pile of money ever stolen by the inflated rates, sitting in his Dropbox, which to me doesn't match up, right? Like I was thinking, okay,
Yeah,
he was
sounds like a
framed,
setup.
but it's the feds, so he's going to plea out because you can't win against the feds, and they were holding his wife, who clearly had nothing to do with any of this, as sort of like a strong arm tactic, like they did with me, right? So that was my whole theory on this thing, and today he comes out and says, not only did I launder funds like the Fed said, I was the person who hacked Bitfinex in the first place and
But
took
maybe
all
he
the
was
funds.
just saying that because that's what you're supposed to say, and that's how you get a little bit less.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
It's hard to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it was AI generated that he admitted that he.
No,
had
not
done
yet.
it.
Like 3 more days, and then
Three more
because
days.
it moves faster. 2 more weeks, and then
I say it was all done in the name of love.
Yeah.
we're gonna turn this into a documentary. We're gonna have on Hulu.
Netflix
Oh,
has
is
already
it
optioned
actually?
their
Oh my
story.
God.
They've already
Oh,
optioned their
wow.
story.
They're
That's
gonna make her out to
fantastic.
be she was the true mastermind skipping away. It's like the
Not
road goes
skipping.
on forever. She drives downtown in her new Mercedes Benz, and he goes to the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna make it that one.
You were going to say something though. You were saying like this comes back to another topic we were talking about. Is that, or is you?
Just like I just don't think you should be on social media really talking about certain things.
We have to teach the
You
next
gotta
generation
kind of limit.
that ride or die should be replaced with stop talking or I'll go to jail. So it's important.
Right. It's
We
like
need a movie franchise that can, instead of the ride or die, it's more stop talking to everybody.
It's actually not a hard jump to make. I mean, like criminal culture is really anti-snitching, so just shut the hell up.
What takes the fun out of it, though, is like storytelling is fun, right?
Right.
And never let the truth get in the way of a good story, right? We've all come up with some really good stories around the campfire talking about something that wasn't even me, but it was such a great story. You got to put yourself in it.
right.
And now that's recorded.
if
You're
I
done.
stole $4.5 billion, is that what it was?
Well, that was what the today value of the Bitcoin.
I
was only
would
a
shut
couple
the
hundred
hell
million
up
when they did it,
and
yeah.
go to another country and disappear on a boat somewhere.
But it
I
was
would
trackable.
not get in front
Right.
of the camera.
It was trackable.
And
That's why he
rap.
couldn't spend it or break it apart because the second he started using it,
Well, see, this is the thing. So they did some pretty they did some pretty complicated things to launder the funds. They went to other countries.
Well,
Sold.
don't walk through it. You're going to let everyone know how to do it.
now we're not
Stop
going
it.
to watch the Netflix thing, dude.
It's I'm just reading what was written in the CNBC today. So
they
I
did
am
a
not
lot of-
giving any
so they-
financial advice.
So they did a lot of elaborate stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got, look, you get that kind of money. You're not going to hide it very
I
well.
would
No
go to
one's going to hide it
another-
very well.
Well,
There are a lot of billionaires
this-
out there, but still.
They're not
I mean, this
You're
is
not hide it.
this
Those
is-
guys aren't brilliant enough to hide that thing.
well, this is legitimately yes and no. But here's the issue, right? The issue is that back in when this hack happened, it's not like today where it's a like almost a multi-trillion-dollar market cap for all of crypto. All of crypto was like 700 million. Yeah, it was in the billions, right? And so you're stealing like a double-digit percentage of all the available crypto at the time in circulation. There is no way to launder that amount of money. There's barely, at that point, there was barely a way to launder $1 million through Bitcoin because it was so small without it being seen and observable just through casual clicking around on the blockchain explorer. So if you make the largest exchange hack of human history and then try to launder those funds, it doesn't matter what you do to hide it, it's going to leave a paper trail.
Am
Should
I
have
the-
used it as collateral so they could have done a clean money source and moved it to other ones and started spending it. Right?
Oh, yeah. Well,
I've got
like-
$4.5 billion. I'll tell you about it later, but I'd like a line of credit. I'd like some houses. Somebody would have fell for
Silicon
that.
Valley
North
Bank could have
Korea, Switzerland.
Just
would have
kidding.
done it.
Just kidding. What about like this? Has anyone here seen Office Space? Does this not like kind of remind you a little bit of Office Space?
Every money laundering story reminds me of Office Space. Yeah, we got to open up
couple
the
of pennies.
dictionary. So the definition of money laundering is to
I do think there's something going on here where you're thinking they were framed, or who would be stupid enough to share that. We have a serious problem. A lot of generations who don't think there's consequences to things because they have seen so many people get away with everything. Why wouldn't you show yourself robbing from a store? Why wouldn't you talk about lying or cheating or doing? Because they don't see people held accountable. Certainly no CEOs are going to jail for 2008. Why would these guys get in trouble? Who was the reality denier, reality whisperer, whatever her?
Oh yeah, no, reality winner.
Shocked that there were consequences for linking confidential documents, and we see a lot of that where like we're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that your confusion is. You can't imagine somebody being that dumb. because
This guy's an Eastern European. Like he doesn't really come up from American
Oh,
culture.
so prison here is going to be great.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing.
3 squares, you know.
Like it just, but he's just a very sharp cybersecurity mind, and the way in which he got caught was extremely stupid. And
That's
so
amazing.
Maybe it was a
Always.
short term. Maybe he just dragged and dropped it into the Dropbox while he was putting in between there.
yeah, and left it there for a decade.
Maybe
paying
they're-
the whole time.
It's very easy. Like it's very easy to have things show up in your Dropbox through
people, yeah.
subterfuge and phishing. Right, is very difficult. I mean, the links that he went through. The kind of reason why I was going through the whole.
It's a weird
money
place
thing,
to end it,
It's a
yeah.
very, very complicated way. He could have gotten away with it. It was like 5 or 6 steps. The only reason that the government knows about all the things he needed to money launder is because they found that in his Dropbox and then
they were able to-
used
So
it
it's
as
like
leverage
doing
to
money
get him to
heist
confess.
and then taking all the money and putting it in your shed, and then forgetting about it
Yeah.
until Gardner gets into it 15 years later. Is that basically the?
But criminals always get caught with the smallest things. Serial killers get
They
caught. They
They
do.
don't. I've
They
been
do.
to
It's the
prison. I can
dumbest
tell you they
mistake.
don't. So the people that are in prison are almost always not the kingpins. They're the patsies.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean criminals always get caught. That means the patsies always get caught. That means
No,
the
I'm
people
not.
that are
No,
set
no,
up.
okay, I said it wrong. Criminals don't always get caught, but when they do get caught, they're caught over little things.
Yeah, that's just not my experience.
No.
Not from the people that I've met in prison. I mean, I spent almost a year there. I mean, I got to know about 400 or 500 different criminals and what they were there for. And there were a couple of people there that would probably deserve to be there out of 400 or 500. And the rest of them were just kind of like, they were what they call them crash test dummies. It's like what you're somebody else that actually has a sophisticated operation says, we need to get somebody caught over here so they get off of my scent. And they get some guy that's greedy and throw him in there and like, they call the cops on them.
So you don't think the situation? I mean, are we Xing out the Xing? Are we Xing out
Oh no.
the possibility that was a setup? You think?
I don't know. I've got no way of knowing.
Neither here nor there. Let's talk about like where did the name crocodile come from? Like, what is this whole? Like, I mean,
I thought it was
I
gonna
think
be
it's
some tears
fantastic.
joke
This
right
sounds
after that.
It had
great,
to be
but
because
this
there's
is-
the Wolf of Wall Street.
I would have
It
said
had to
fake
be.
tears immediately.
Yeah.
Was she crying? Was there?
No,
it just-
this
she
was
called
her
herself-
rapper name.
She called herself the crocodile of.
That's right.
What is
Yeah.
her rapper
Her
name?
rapper name is Razzle Khan.
Right, but like that was,
Razzle
but that was in the video that came out. That was before all
Is
of
that with
this.
2 Z's?
Yeah, it has 2 Z's.
I don't
What
care at
kind of
this
question
point.
is that?
I'm just at this point. I don't care if it's nosy.
Right. Anyway, I think it's a fascinating story. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and just I thought it was a setup before I had further reinforcement of that. So, but it's also a conspiracy theory. It could be the official story. He could have just gotten caught for something dumb.
I need to do some embarrassing stuff and put it on video for you. So if I'm ever in trouble, they show the embarrassing stuff and don't focus on the crimes.
Correct.
And then people like Mark will be like, nah, they were framed.
Right.
And I'll just talk about how you should not have done that on social media.
He knew. They pull up a clip with me saying you shouldn't talk on social media, and the next one's like, "Look, I got billions."
Well, I mean, it just is further evidence of that, and I'll leave it alone after that. Like the last 3 major heists that have been perpetrated in crypto, the people that the DOJ actually lands in prison have been low-level members that have just been charged with conspiracy to the crime of the bigger crime because they couldn't actually get the perpetrator of the crime. They get the guy that was, the admin of the forum for the hackers that stole the money.
I mean, you don't get to a 99% conviction rate without being sure of what you're doing.
So with that substantial
Good one.
fine, with that substantial haul by the Department of Justice or whoever got it, is that like, now that makes their statistics, like, since it's the largest haul, probably by double, triple, like, does that all of a sudden skew their numbers to be like, we've caught everybody?
Yeah, there's no crime. There's no crime left. You guys can all take a year off. Yeah. Speaking of taking a year off or a couple years off, TurboTax maybe done. I don't know. Can you interpret this story? Have you read it?
I haven't read the story, but I've been wondering for a long time why we haven't been able to file our taxes for free through the federal government, right? I mean,
Right.
It's not like ADP and or any other payroll service provider doesn't automatically already handle all of your 1099 information and K1s. All that stuff has to be done by the big corporations anyway. Why wouldn't it all be able to be aggregated?
I always
directly
assumed
and
it was lobbying.
Yeah, of course. Right. It's the same thing. Same reason there's not a flat tax, right? It's like, ultimately, it's because of all the noise out there, and it's like, oh, you 20% of Warren Buffett's money, so flat tax. It's going to get them more than it's going to get you. Anyway, long short story is that I think that TurboTax went to their free subscription, right? Remember, for a long time, it's been free if you use their basic service, and then if you want additional help, I was thinking it was like they're probably getting squeezed by the government, and it's probably still not enough. And so the government's like, fine, let's just go ahead and open up our own. But they've had a great monopoly, as far as I'm concerned, or oligopoly on electronic free tax returns.
I see why they wouldn't do it. I mean, it is government software. There's going to be something going wrong.
No.
They thought they could bill healthcare.gov for $1 billion. When that first came out, I was in the IT industry, and I would just ask every good developer, I said, do you think you could have built healthcare.gov to work, to connect to all 50 states and do it right? And they're like, no. I was like, what if I gave you $1 billion? They're like, well, I'd try. But what if you only got paid if it worked? They're like, no.
Not taking it on.
It was impossible to do.
Yeah.
We had mainframe stake. There was so much that was going on. Only a politician would say we could build that and have it function immediately. So it was. It's the same kind of thing.
Well,
it
think
seems
about,
like an easy thing to do, but
the vast majority of the people that do tax returns, it's W-2 employee.
Yep.
It's all standard. It's super easy to
You just
enforce.
press it.
Already press it and forget it. You're probably going to get your money back, most of it at the end of the day. And then you had to pay $300 to $500 to either a regular accountant or to somebody over at one of the major small tax return preparers. Yeah.
So I mean,
120.
here's my thing, right? And because I've seen some really squirrely stuff with the IRS in the last few years. Even if they do offer a free way to file, which I believe they absolutely should the average person trust that free filing, or should they use an online preparation, or should they get somebody to do it for them?
As a professional, I am a huge fan. I don't care if you are a W-2 employee, generally speaking, once you get to a certain level of wealth or money that's coming in and you have any roots, whether it's a house or something that generates something you may be able to work with, I always say use a professional. But that professional, I'm not, I'm going to refer somebody, right? Or I'm going to work with, it's not just going to be one of the box stores, right? I believe that you should use a professional. If you can collect X back for free from the government, you can believe that someone who's a professional that does this for a living is going to find a way to use all those tax books that are probably, I can't even imagine how much space they take up,
Right.
to find ways to help you get more money back. So yeah, I'm a huge believer in using a professional, but I'm not a huge fan of using just like, if you're just going to use TurboTax, or if you're going to use something like that, you may as well use the government's version. But if you're at a point where you actually really do have K1s, or you have a small side business or something like that, yes, absolutely go to a professional.
So it's funny you say that, because I got slammed with a bill from the IRS from 2020, and I hired a professional at that time, and she used TurboTax to fill out my taxes.
What?
Yes,
Well, I would
so
have
I
said,
had
okay,
to-
I'm done with you.
No, of course, yeah, but this was like recent. So I just got the bill like maybe last year. So what did I have to do? I had to go back and fix everything she did, but I had to go to a professional. So I went to H&R Block, and I'm just like, hey, can you help me fix this? And it was the simplest things that she was doing wrong on TurboTax. I'm like, well, if you were going to do TurboTax, I could have done TurboTax.
Yeah, so there's professional versions of all that software. There's Lacert, which is actually owned by, they're all affiliated, like QuickBooks, of Lacert,
Right.
all these different tax preparation software. They've got the industrial version, and then they've got the regular person version. So
Just
you
because they're
shouldn't be
professional
using.
and they have that
No,
doesn't
but
mean
they
they're not going to
know
mess it
they
up.
need to know how to use it, right?
That
I
one
think
year
it's-
when they
That's what I'm
forgot
saying.
my kids,
Oh my
and the
God.
bill was surprising. Every year they'd had kids didn't disappear that year.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just brought a new guy in, and the new guy didn't know it, didn't look before. It got filed. I'm
Exactly.
like, wow, that's
So-
an expensive cracks credit. If you have 2 kids, to miss all of that when you're filing,
Yeah.
Oops.
I think it's just so important to make sure you have a great referral to a tax professional and
Yeah, the
really
amount of
do your due diligence.
the amount of
on-
money between using somebody from a small, doing it yourself, first of all, maybe not great depending on what your situation is. But if you think you have a complicated situation, you probably should go see somebody.
Yeah.
If you don't have if you know you don't have a complicated situation, then you could probably do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
You can upload the documents. It's actually pretty easy. But if you think you might have a complicated situation, go see somebody. It's going to be a few $100, and it could save you such misery and heartache. Believe me, you don't want to deal with the IRS. It's Thurgood Marshall said it whenever he said that the IRS, there was case law. The IRS is like the only court in the land where you were guilty until you're proven innocent. Period. The power to tax is the power to destroy. You want to talk about the Eye of Sauron?
Yeah.
Woo. You don't want to get into
it's
an audit
probably
with the
Sauron.
IRS because there's so many layers and they don't know what they're doing. Each agent's going to come after you individually and separately because this is a corporate return. You have to talk to that department. There's an individual. Oh, well, but you also did the. Just hire someone for a few $100 and just let them do it
Yeah,
for you.
it's
And make
been
sure
a
they're
headache.
Good. If they don't pass the sniff test, don't use them.
But
You
you don't
find out
know
they're
where
using
to. You don't
QuickBooks,
know
don't
who
do
to
it.
trust anymore. I
hard.
mean, like I said, I went to H&R Block, and by the second meeting, she's like, "Oh, our systems aren't working, so we're gonna mail it in." It's been 7 weeks. Every time I call the IRS, they don't have any information.
Of course not.
So what professional are we looking for now? That's
It's
the
harder.
question.
Well, once it gets to the IRS, you're in trouble. Each professional that works and is actually registered to work with the IRS,
Right.
they have a hotline. They actually have a hotline to call the IRS, which instead of being an hour and a half is like 30 minutes on hold. So they can call that hotline and find out where you are better than you will.
So I'm just gonna have to go make a stop at H&R Block now. After this.
There
Right.
you go.
Thank you for reminding me of all my tax issues.
That's what I do here. It's public service. The thing that always made me a little like distrustful of like what this free filing thing was going to be about is when the IRS started putting out in their FAQs. They put this out last year. I don't know if you remember this. They said, if I have stolen property, do I need to file taxes on that? And they said, yes, you absolutely must report your stolen property or any illegally gained income
That is a
and
pretty
report it
funny
as
thing.
regular income.
Well, as long as you report it,
If
at
you
least
report it.
they're not going to hit you with federal charges for that.
And then it's not like they're calling your to your local administrator and sheriff and saying, okay, yeah, this guy did it.
Oh yeah, they would absolutely never cooperate across.
Well, I mean, it's in their pocket if you ever.
We're with the
decide to.
IRS. It reminds me of was it like the one of those old westerns? We're the IRS. We're your friends. It was like
Western?
it was not the Magnificent Seven. One of those. It was like the bad guy. It's like, I am your friend. I am here to help you. Meanwhile, he's waiting to shoot him.
How
Yeah.
about I know exactly what he's talking about? That's so sad.
Wouldn't it be in their interest though to keep it going, depending on how lucrative your business is? I mean,
Yeah, so here's the
good
crux
point.
of the situation. We've all been hearing about interest rates going up and debt service and how much money. Rewind years ago when Janet Yellen was on the other side of the equation, and she was like, "We really need to get our hands around this deficit issue, the debt service. We've got $21 trillion, and we need to address this. This is really, really, really bad." 10 trillion later, when she's actually, part of the political machine, she's like, "Don't worry about it. It's fine. We're rich. We're a good kind. We're fine."
Well, I was yelling at 7 trillion.
Yeah.
They called us terrorists for it.
Yeah. So
It's hard to be right all the time.
in order to pay all that debt service, right, as a portion of gross domestic product, we have to pay taxes, right? And if they don't collect the taxes, we lose our credit rating. What just recently happened from Fitch, we lost our credit rating. What actually backs the U.S. government and our credit rating? It's the full
Lockheed
faith.
Martin.
Yeah, full faith and credit of the U.S. government, right? What's the full
General
faith and
Dynamics.
credit of the U.S. government? You, me,
Our military.
all of us, that too. But what's funding all that? Our taxes. Our taxes.
I thought it was oil from Iraq, but I might.
That too.
I might have. I meant to update my reading from the
Hey,
news.
everybody needs a side hustle, okay? Everyone needs a side hustle. But legitimately, us paying taxes is the full faith and credit of the U.S. government because of all the countries, we are the ones that actually pay our taxes, more so than some of the other countries. And so that's what the full faith and credit. So what does that mean? That's the 85,000 people at the IRS that are going to make sure that we pay our taxes because our government
only
can't
going
stop
after
spending.
they're only going after the billionaires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You believe that too, right?
Well, I saw it on news, so
gotta be true.
It was on the web. It's got to be true.
I didn't read it on social media like some people. Well, I mean, I
didn't-
did
you
see it on
didn't-
social media, but
you
it
didn't
wasn't
hear
news
the
channel
rap?
on social media. So that's
I heard
how
a
know.
rap.
You didn't
a
hear
rap
it in the rap
on-
song?
It's not true until somebody raps about it.
Yeah.
It's like you haven't made it to Weird Al parodies you. You're not a serious news story until
Right.
somebody.
Right. Until somebody auto-tunes it or something.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's great.
Speaking of social media, you had a post this week that
Oh, yeah.
got a bunch of attention on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was. Everyone's talking about automation and AI and these things that happen in the corporate business stuff. So I figured I'd write a little story that took people down this emotional journey. So if you'll indulge me, because it's 3 minutes long, right? So
Okay.
when I was younger, I met a girl who was fun and she had this spark and she was pretty, and because of that, she also had a lot of male attention. So we've been dating about 2 weeks, and I knew it couldn't move forward unless we actually decided to actually date. So to shoot my shot, I sat down with her, and I just told the story of us, just a little thing like, this is how I met you. These are the things we've done. This is what you ordered at different times. This is what makes you smile. This is how you throw your hair. Just little bits and details that I'd paid attention. Well, yeah.
That's so sweet.
I list it. Here's the positive things you don't know about yourself. Here's a negative thing you don't want other people to know. I just kind of sitting there. I was on the floor. She was on the couch, and she just was quiet for a while. And then I sat on the floor and told her how much I liked her. And you could see tears welling in her eyes, and then you could see emotion, it was like a wave rising up over her. And she throws herself at me, and we started dating exclusively after that. And the weird thing is when you do that kind of stuff, people think, oh, that was desire, right? It wasn't that at all. It was relief. Because I think for the first time in her life, she had been aware that someone saw her. It's that desire to be seen. And it wasn't love. It wasn't like a rom-com where I'm sitting there going, here's my great love, and here's the big reveal on the bridge. No, it wasn't like that. It was, I was being heard, she was being seen, and that's where the passion came from. And so I wrote about that, and then I moved right into interviews and candidate experience, because what happens is we want to automate everything, and we don't realize that the most powerful thing you can do is validate another human being. So the problem is you have to get to that point. You have to live that story of us before you can validate it. If you just hand a bunch of things about a person, you don't really grok it. You don't grasp what's going on. And so as we talk about AI and automation, it made me think about selling, for B2B selling. If you come and pitch me a story about a company and I go, oh, that's very interesting, that's a polite dismissal, right? If you pitch me an idea and I go, that is amazing, I think you're going to do so well at that. That is a validation because I understood I didn't understand what your company was doing. I understood what hers was. And sometimes we need to pay attention to that, because if you don't, you're not selling. You're just ticking off a list. You're basically losing what it meant to be human. So it was a nice little story. And then, now, it didn't last, by the way. We dated like 11 months.
Oh.
But that was the problem, because I didn't do my due diligence. We had different values. We were going different places, and we mistook. It was like speed. Don't start a relationship on a high note, because it did. We just had never felt that. So you have to do both sides. But it was
Interesting.
It was a well-received story.
Or she was just an Aries, and we get bored really fast.
When was her birthday? I think it's because she's from Indiana. I think that was the problem.
Once we lose that spark, I'm
either
like,
Aries or Indiana.
I'm bored. Aries from Indiana.
Oh, boy.
So it's interesting that you say that. I'm actually looking for a book. I'm gonna have to find it and maybe put it in the show notes in the future. But there's a conversation I had with a client yesterday who is they're in love. They want to get married, and I said, "Hey, while you're at it, why don't you get this book and I'll send it to you?" And it's I think it's like 13 questions. I think maybe that's the name of it, but it's something like that.
Actual love, or like the company?
If you're going to get married, you should know the answers to these questions, right? It's like, who is it that you may believe that your relatives are the best person to raise your children, but your other may say something else, right? So these are those kinds of questions, and you should probably know the answer to those before you get married, because these are fundamental questions that will drive a relationship apart, money, so on and so forth. So anyway, I just find it fascinating because, again, people get so enchanted, and then, you try it on, and then you realize, hey, it's really tight on my toe or something, right?
Not tight on my toe.
Coming up with shoes, you don't buy a shoe until you try it on, right?
I've never heard that one before.
That's my favorite
it.
one so far. That's my
I
favorite
love
one.
So ultimately, like, these are really important questions to ask, and that gets to the same thing that you're talking about that gets lost in translation whenever you're communicating side to side, which is like, you look at a piece of paper or a video clip, that's just one spotlight second. To have somebody, I remember it was a guy who was in talent acquisition. He had his own consulting company, and he was like, look, I have a stable of people that I've kept, that, like, I've gotten them promoted, I've gotten them, moved them from one place to another, and I know what I'm working with. These are, known quantities. How do you get in there? How do you get in good with those people that are going to help move you forward? Like, it's not just like one resume.
It's verifying over time. It's exactly what we talked about last week. We have this sense that, oh, Frank's a really good guy. I have no clue. I've never worked with you. We've never put money on the table together. You seem like a good guy, but I don't really know anything about you.
Yeah.
3-4 years, and we did business together. Now this is what happens when he gets angry.
If I do it right, you'll never know.
Yeah. But this also goes back to the conversation of what people are seeing on social media. So what blows me is, like, it's, they're seeing this perfect images on your social media, and they're like, oh, I want to be with her. I want to take her out.
Why doesn't my girl look
it's
like
almost,
that? Why don't I look like that?
And then the comparison happens, but it also goes back to, I always have this conversation with my friends. Dina, you can be with whoever you want. Yeah, but it's just that they like the idea of a situation, not really doing the work. They like the idea of what they see, and there's no verification. I don't have a blue check, by the way. But there's no verification over time. And then once they get to know you, right? But it goes back to what we're presenting on social media and the importance of authenticity.
And people now stay off of that too. So I wouldn't suggest this, but every once in a while, if I'm going to date a girl, I definitely look her up on the Bureau of Prisons.gov to make sure her name.
Make that mistake one time.
Make it one time.
To be fair, you do want to do a background check on people.
That gets a little creepy because I do that for a living. I literally do it for a living. I can look up anybody, and you want to give people the freedom to be who they are, but if you don't, it's one thing for women doing there's a safety issue that they're concerned about, but there's also, is the guy married? Does she have 2 kids?
Exactly.
Is this part of a scam of some kind?
Exactly.
So there's this But if you do that too much, you reach a point. Basically, it's because we don't.
You really kind
we
of
don't
lose
have
your
our networks.
faith in humanity
If you
at that
really
point.
knew people,
Yeah.
it's like interviewing for a job. If you were actually honest about how you worked and they were honest about what they were doing, nobody would ever hire or get hired.
So I don't want
So-
you to give it away because obviously, you know, there's probably money in that, but how do you fix that? How do you
go back to old school meeting with people, saying hello, shaking their
it's gotta
hand,
come
work
down
with
to
them, living
better-
life together.
Better pre-qualification, because that what you suggest doesn't scale, and that's the problem, right?
So maybe it's not. Maybe that's the point. We keep trying to scale everything.
no, but like
instead of just focus on the people around
But
us.
you have to scale if you're going to service a large scale organization. Like you did sourcing for very large organizations, and you're trying to
I
hire
fake sincerity at scale. That's correct.
5,000 baristas for a
Right.
hotel across the country. You know, how you can't do that at that scale, so you got to pre-qualify somehow so that you can actually make a connection with the individuals that make it through the net, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can do that, but then I know. I think that we at this focus on people just can't do it. It's like having 1 million followers on Instagram. You look at this stuff they're
You're
doing.
certainly not going to please them all.
Well, then you'll try though. You keep going back and doing dumber and dumber stuff because you're chasing that
Because
dopamine
people
rush.
need people need validation.
So, are you saying basically, like my theory on social media, that large-scale social media is doomed because of this problem? That large corporations are also doomed?
I think I'm probably saying we should all live in the mountains at high altitudes in a few years with a small group of people.
So,
It's hard not to go there, but that's not it. But you should at least try that a little bit.
so
You know,
this
it's not always scale, is what I'm saying.
this section is super profound to me, and what Jim said to trigger this, you said if the employer and prospective employee was honest, then no one would get hired. Is that because their interests are misaligned fundamentally? And
It could be. It's more. I
Or
mean,
were you
it's
getting
more
at
basic.
something
It's
more-
basic human stuff because it's the same thing with dating. It's the same thing with investing. No one's perfect. There might be a few people out there, but no one's perfect.
I'm
And
perfect.
a lot of it's, it's not. It's a good interview isn't about you never making a mistake. It's about you understanding what those mistakes were and routing around the damage. And that's what people don't grasp is you can make a mistake. The question is, how did you address it? If you cheated in a relationship, that doesn't make you a bad person. If you think that your justification is still okay, that's what makes you a bad person. You can learn and grow and not do that. But if you don't ever admit it, figure out what was wrong and decide what that behavior was. Oh, you overspend. You don't clean your room. Whatever it is, those are things that can be fixed if you choose to do it. The challenge is that if we tell somebody, yeah, I used to be a hoarder and I've never cleaned my room, nobody wants to be around you because they're afraid that you'll lapse back into it. I used to have a drinking problem. They're terrified you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
I stole $4.5 billion and put it in a Dropbox.
I mean, it happens.
Very
to
hard to
everybody.
recover from that.
And
Well,
you wrapped.
Well, there's no recovering from the wrapping.
that's true. White
You
people
can't
should not rap.
fix bad taste.
Old white people shouldn't rap, but now I'm seeing her. I mean, never mind. There's Krayshawn. Never mind. So that's taking it back to verification over time versus like the background check mentality. It's like if you don't believe that people can be rehabilitated, but that's the goal, I think, for a lot of people in modern society. So this verification over time thing is starting to make more sense to me versus being a concrete. Oh, at one point in time you are verified.
Right. It's also a matter of risk, and we don't always grasp that. Everything is a risk. Everything in business is a risk. Nobody wants to have any of the consequences. So whether it's dating or driving to downtown to go to a hockey game or having your kids play out in the yard alone without people don't understand risk tolerance. And then immediately they jump to the sue or this is a bad person, and
So
you have
going
to be
back to
comfortable with it.
going back to the actual employment part of that equation, though, for a second, talking about being able to sort through resumes, getting to know person that you don't know, right? So we're talking about the vast majority of people that just graduated and didn't think about like taking whatever, somebody that doesn't have that connection,
Right.
doesn't have that history. As long as they're mission driven, right? Because I think now know post COVID that like more people are really interested in their own lives more than their jobs, because that kind of feels that way now. They're not mission driven. I want to stay with the company for 20 years. Now it's like I want to get paid and I want to
But
move on. as long as they're mission driven in that particular company that they go to work with at the time. I just don't see us going back to our parents' days where they had a pension and they worked there for 30 years.
No.
So if that's not the model anymore, how do you address that other than just being focused on the mission, believing in that mission as long as you're there? Because people aren't going to stay.
We have to change at the company levels, because the problem with that is when someone focuses just on money or work-life benefits, or when they say that in an interview, it's like they've been cheated on. They know that there's no point in caring about the company because their father, their grandfather, their uncle, their mother, they all got laid off. They all thought they had someone's pension. They've seen it now, and they know that they're not the So why would you give? It's not equal. And so the challenge that we have at our companies is you can give someone a purpose. You need that purpose. But to too many of the owners, it's I'm doing something. But when then they sell out for $30 million, you're like, what were you doing?
Then you sit there hold the bag,
How
right?
did you? Yeah. So it has to equalize to some extent, because people do want purpose in their lives. They do want. I quit my last job because I didn't feel like I was doing enough. They paid me. They treated me well. I liked the people, but I wasn't doing enough. Yeah. But not everybody does that. Not everybody just quits a job to start a company too. So it's a matter of, we can't complain about it. This is the old way when we're the ones creating the structures. We're not even asking these questions. Instead, hey, let's use ChatGPT to write your resume so I can get into the ATS and get a job.
I really saw an atrocious ChatGPT resume tutorial, and it was the instructions were quite literally go to the job that you want, feed that into ChatGPT, and ask it to generate a resume and job history and skill set to get the job. And that was the whole. It wasn't like, and then modify it to match your history or anything like that.
Yeah.
Don't even pretend. Just straight up lie. Like, this is the.
And then they will tell you flat out, and it works. We got 46% more applications that turned into an interview. I'm like, you're not tracking that. Yeah, you don't believe everything you read on social media.
I'm saying I believe it. I'm just saying it's awful advice. Like this is like the video that comes up when you search for how to use ChatGPT for resume. It's like,
This is why it's scary. I had someone turn to me and say, "Just toss your terms and contracts into ChatGPT." I'm like, "Are you out of your? You want me to trust my company's life to some random thing?"
Did you see that?
They're like,
yesterday?
just toss it in there.
There was I gotta find it. I don't remember where I read it, but it was talking about all the people that actually are using, like, people that wouldn't even tell their family and friends anything about what they do for a living or any secrets, have been using and dumping like data into ChatGPT that's like super secure, classified, all that kind of stuff to see what they could do.
They think
so
it's
they're
Google.
trusting. They think it's safe. There's no sandbox around that. Let's say you've got some groundbreaking technology and you want to compare it to something else. Where does that data go? Who is mining that data? Who's got? But there's a lot of that data that's like, I would never share that information with anybody. And meanwhile, they just drag and drop it right into ChatGPT.
Think of the personal stuff they're putting in there.
Yeah.
Like, people will type stuff into their Google search that they shouldn't.
Oh, I remember
What happens when they start sharing personal stuff? Then it ends up crossing criminal lines and being shown. And
this is a temporary problem, though. I mean, at some point in the very near future, we're not going to be reliant on cloud-based LLMs. It's every week another.
don't tell the investors that, because they're putting a lot of money into that.
I mean, it's done. The money's been spent. Microsoft already gave them $10 billion. It's not really a problem at this point. But like, no, but like every week I see at least 3 stories about Llama or some other LLM that install this on your own VPS and do whatever the heck you want with it, because it's 85% as good as ChatGPT 4, which sometimes those metrics are arbitrary, but like the fact that it's even competitive.
But by saying 84%, it feels really precise. And that's the important thing in marketing. You never say 80, you go 82.4%. You're like, oh, this guy did his homework, clearly.
Right. Well, it's not. These are not marketing.
That's how you lie at scale.
It's an open. There you go. So you're saying we should record a video on how to really get a job with ChatGPT by lying at scale and actually get 84% better results.
You could create that. I could do that in about an hour.
Well, if you're a sales guy, that's probably okay.
I want to do a social experiment where I actually go into the interviews and tell them that I'm the worst person they can ever hire. I want to see how
You and a George Costanza the interview?
Yeah.
You'd probably be hired.
I'll be like, what? I don't make my bed in the morning, and I
She's
feel
got
like
upper
it's
level
chaotic.
management written all over her.
I
It's a
have
straight shooter.
Sometimes I don't brush my teeth.
don't we have we've got some equipment that we can actually film that interaction?
I feel like I just want to see how people are, because if you ever pay attention to the social experiments where they go into a store dressed a certain way and you see how they, like the sales representatives treat that customer.
Did we not talk about how I walked into the branch office yesterday?
Absolutely.
It was great.
Was that on mic? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm guilty of seeing, I saw a man walk into the grocery store with his wife's slippers on, and they were furry, pink, and very loud. And he was just this huge, muscular man, and I just couldn't.
Pink and very loud. Come on, man. She's trying to tell a story. Don't put that image in her head. Why don't we get technical difficulties for him? Please. I'm trying to. Go ahead.
So fine. No, but I mean, we do go there. I lost my trail of thought right there.
Well, you're talking about how you dress and what's the difference, and you want to run a social experiment.
I think it's important. I mean, I try to be as transparent as possible when I talk to people, but I mean, it doesn't work out for everybody. But it'd be interesting to see how companies, if you go in and you go through an interview and you just tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Do you guys like the idea of radical transparency? Have you heard that?
What does that mean?
I mean, I've heard of it.
I mean, it just ends up someone goes.
Sounds like it's kind of
a marketing thing, but they're like, we'll show you everything.
Selfish way to go through life, because it's really more beneficial to the person unloading their whatever onto the.
Yeah, from a personal level.
it's
It's just
very
idea that you tell
manipulative.
It's what it really is. Yeah, it's radical means, well, it's like saying, okay, I'm not going to lie, but you're like, have you been? That's a.
Well, it reminds me of the Jonah Hill thing from a couple weeks ago. Did y'all see that? So Jonah Hill is being, canceled for being a manipulator, controller, telling his girlfriend.
Oh, right.
But in the text messages, he's basically saying, he's like, hey, I'm telling you I'm insecure. I'm an insecure little person. And
I think we knew where you were going.
Yeah.
We chat GPT that in our heads.
Yeah. And he's like, it's your choice to be with me. That doesn't make it okay to be manipulative and abusive. I mean, it's, there's never 100% radical transparency, right?
I have told my wife when we first started dating, and then we got serious, and then I said to her, look, I'm at this point, I was late 40s, and I was like, I lived in Manhattan for 23 years, and I thought I was going to be single forever, so I will tell you the truth if you ask me anything, but you need to be really careful about what you ask me. That's as transparent as I'm getting.
Right.
How does that fit?
Yeah.
Oh God, what's going on?
No, I told her, it was I trust her enough to know what questions to ask. I don't want to dump on anybody anything that I've done in the past, right? We all have done stupid things, and as we were growing up, thank God there were no cell phones. I mean, the number of times that we jumped, bikes, the things that our parents would just not want to ever know, no one needs to know that stuff.
Right.
We talked about that secret that my buddy was like, oh my God, that's a big one from COVID. Why don't we just go ahead and try to keep our secrets a little more confidential next time?
Right. Yeah. So that's also
cocaine and the booze together.
What is that?
cool. Speaking of secret and secret identities, secret family members, Putin is saying no more secrets in Russia.
Yeah.
Kind of the I think the Elon Musk approach to, and frankly Mark Zuckerberg has taken the same approach to Meta, but basically saying if you use any social network, any internet service in Russia, you must verify your identity with the state or face criminal consequences.
You look like Rasputin today.
I mean, I figured why not dress to the
I
thing.
really wish you could do a good Russian accent as you read that. That would have been amazing.
I'm not going to even try.
Can you do a Romani one?
This gets to that question, though, that we're going to have at some point, which is how do you verify a person? We do have passports, right? We do have social security numbers.
Without giving the state total and absolute
Without getting
control of
total
where you
control.
go.
But that's the operative word in that sentence is we do. As Americans, we have a pretty well accepted way of doing unique identity verification. But like I said in I think it was one of our conversations either last week or in our on your show, 1/5 of the world doesn't have what we would consider identity.
They don't even have the.
That's 1/5 of the world that is unbanked and not bankable.
Yeah.
Because they grew up in a village in the mountains that just doesn't
No
give
birth
out
information,
Social Security
nothing.
numbers or whatever the equivalent is for their nation.
So, I mean, okay, my confusion right here is, are we not doing that anyway right now?
Yeah, is that the social credit card? Or is that different? Is it
Like,
just that we don't
I
admit
feel
that we're doing
like all my information
Well, if you
is
go
on
to
the
the
internet.
library, if you go to the library as like a homeless person who lost his Social Security card somewhere back in the 60s, and you log into the internet and create a Facebook account, that is not illegal. You can create a Twitter account and say whatever you want in the United States because there is no national mandate for identity.
Unless you need an ID to get into the library, because they won't let you in anymore without an ID proving you're from the city.
That's actually
the
not
town,
Yeah.
the street.
Well,
Do you live around the corner?
It depends on which
Plano,
sundown town you're
Carrollton,
in. Yeah.
Frisco.
But
No.
like in a non-sundown town, you can
my
still
God.
go into a library and do
Plano,
whatever you want.
Plano, you have to. They want to see your ID.
I think someone called Plano Sundown Town.
Yeah. So,
No.
Ultimately, there are.
but my point is, we do have that
Rails.
liberty in the United States that we can get on the internet and be anonymous.
Right.
And that's actually kind of a fundamental belief that we should have in this country.
If you go to work, like if you want to do business with any of the financial institutions in America, as far as I know, you have to, even if you're a foreign citizen, you can totally do business there. You just have to fill out the paperwork to get, a tax ID number that they verify as well. So like, I get it. There's like 1/5 of the population of the world that's like not going to be able to do that, but they have to, somebody's going to have to come up with an idea, or they just can't do it.
Well, let's talk about let's be real. Let's get a little bit political with it. Like, you cannot say that we have any liberty if we do not have financial liberty that does not include anonymity.
Yeah.
Because even if you're going to go protest something in the streets, how are you going to how are you going to go pay for the poster board and the marker to make the poster if you do not have financial liberty?
You're going to take your electric car that they can shut off at any time and use your OnStar that they can shut off with your key, with your phone that they can shut off. And are they tracking your miles for climate?
Bringing it back away from
it's
tinfoil
not. That's
hat,
the
like into
question.
reality, people that protested the mask mandates in Ottawa in Canada had their entire retirement and banking taken away because
The
they sent
FBI
$5
used to take
to a
pictures of the
GoFundMe.
license places of people around communist parties. That was in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And absolutely true.
Yeah, but it still happens in enlightened modern society today. That was like 60, 70, 80 years ago.
Okay, so you hit on a
So
great
what-
point. It's already happening.
Right.
So
It's at scale with
is
the
it that big of a
databases.
deal at this point?
Oh, it's
then? I'm just saying it's already happening. If people don't realize that that's already happening, then if they think this is brand new.
Well, so it is. Yeah, it isn't brand new, but the trend in technology is counter to that, right? We have decentralization. We have freedom of finance now enabled through cryptography, and Russia's moving backwards. And these social networks that are mandating state IDs as part of a policy to vet their users are also moving backwards.
Backwards is I think you got to be careful with that because what's happening in both Russia
Backwards
and China,
in terms of freedom.
what you're seeing is it's more of a pendulum swing where both Russia and China are very serious about we're now going to become Russian and Chinese and we're going to be good people and you're not going to be perverts and you're not going to have freedom.
Yeah.
They're moving back to almost a Victorian England for that side. This is what we want. We don't want any of the Westerns, freeness.
That's a good point.
And so it's not a progressive thing. It's because those nations get smaller. This is who we are. Now the question is, do human beings allow that?
That's
but-
anti-humanitarian, is what that is.
It might be anti-empire too. I mean, if you look at it from a larger group, homogenous nations turn into heterogeneous empires and collapse, and
But
they
that's the
fall back
opposite of
in.
decentralization.
Well, they're
And that's
forcing
the
it. Which is not
individual
the,
liberty is not an empire thing.
Yeah,
Individual
forcing
liberty
it's
is
a big
actually
question.
anti-empire.
But does it outlast Putin? I mean, the Russians are very good. It's like the Greeks and the Italian, Irish democracy. You can't force that on people overall because they'll find ways to.
Wait,
not do it.
who is forcing what?
Well, if you look at the whole point of Greeks don't pay taxes. Greeks and Italians don't pay taxes. The Irish democracy, you can pass all the laws you want.
Well, I'm not
But if
talking
they
about
don't follow
democracy
up-
here.
No, but in terms of just whatever the government tells you to do. So Putin can say these things. The question is, do they accept it and support it because they want to siphon themselves off and become a different kind of country, or do they fight it?
Well, I'm less. I think I'm less concerned about what happens in Russia and more concerned about what happens in the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Okay, nationalist.
well, I just happen to live here.
That's literally the point I just made.
But like Russia, but Russia doing this creates a trend that other countries are going to follow, are going to try to follow, because that's exactly what happened. The last 8 years with our politics is it was kind of the vanguard of a right swing in a bunch of other countries that really don't try to be contaminated by our politics. It's that same swing to the right happened in China, like you mentioned, and I mean
Hungary is the big one in Europe.
Hungary, Turkey, like a lot of other parts of Europe that were considered, liberal, and progressive in terms of their political leanings have swung the other direction now. And so I think that is a disturbing trend when you see a country as influential as Russia try to tamper down on such a fundamental right, the right to have a little bit of privacy.
But we have no privacy here.
I think we have perceived privacy. Like, I think
We
that
don't have the state
problem-
declaring no more privacy. So maybe we don't, but at least we're pretending, and maybe that's the key.
We have tools to. You have
Look,
tools
if-
to be more private, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you don't.
But they're not going to dig
talking,
in unless you do something wrong.
But we're
right?
talking
Now,
about
if you have $10,000 and you're picked up by the cops, and it's one of the places
You
of
got
civil
the-
asset forfeiture, and
the
you try
majority-
to go to a bank, they'll just take that. So
The
you
maj-
can't function at a high level.
the majority of the population in the United States don't know how to be private.
Right. Yeah, we found
You guys are
way.
in tech. You know how to be private. I don't feel like there's anything different here. Nothing is private.
The difference
That's a good
is that we have the tech and it's not been outlawed. We have the option to move that direction as a country, as a nation, and as an individual. And what Putin has done, and what other countries like Canada are trying to do, and even our country with Biden is trying to do with our financial laws, is try to move us away from having those laws or having those technologies even available to us.
Is that why Trudeau is getting a divorce? He's going to hide the assets with his wife or his ex-wife?
And maybe the divorce is going to work in all of our favor.
He's the one that needs 23andMe. I want to see that one.
Yeah.
Have you seen? You know what I'm talking about? Do you know that Trudeau looks like Fidel Castro? And the joke is that
Yes.
Pierre Trudeau's. I mean, she loved him. All these pictures,
Yeah.
and so they show him side by side.
Yeah.
That would be great. We should make. But we do that with our presidents. Why wouldn't we?
Oh my goodness!
Why wouldn't
how
we? I mean,
great
how funny would that
let's
be?
Find out. Like, let's.
And then we
know.
could go on shows and they could talk about, hey, it's not his fault. He was born into the situation.
So that's how we do it. We use 23andMe's database to figure out if you are actually who you say you are. Right? They've got all the DNA evidence already.
Hey, Justin, can I borrow that cup of coffee? Just the lid.
Yeah, just a little. Here, can I give you a hair?
What is
Make
this?
sure I get a good follicle
Can I
on there
borrow
for
one of
you.
your hairbrushes? I
this
know you
is-
use them.
Oh, that's just Trudeau.
No, that's
blackface.
just no the Castro and Trudeau picture. I mean, it's those weird
I'm just
things where
saying
they show
he
people
is
the same age.
actually Aladdin or sick or whatever he's trying to do here.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Good times.
Yeah.
Oh, he did that while prime minister, didn't he? Or was
I
that
don't
when he
think
was
so.
younger?
It
He did young
before. It was
stuff.
2001.
Wow.
Recent enough to know better, I would say. I mean,
So Hill, you're putting a lot of things that I'm gonna try to unsee. And I
Good
don't
luck
know
with
how
that. Good
I'm
luck
so
with that.
sorry. No, it's okay.
So yeah, I just saw that they were. I heard about that yesterday. I guess that they were after 17 years. I think the number is, to be precise, 17.
I don't know why people think of this. Why celebrities or politicians or other why anybody.
Ever tells anyone they're getting married.
Not only is there a bunch of PR around the top ones, I mean, it's a lot of it's just made up.
Wait,
Yeah.
what's
high
the
level
question?
high level marriages and weddings and
What's wrong with it?
that so much of it's made up or run through PR or carefully done.
a
or
business.
yeah, it's like the whole point.
It's a
So when
I mean, a
politicians
regular
separate-
marriage is my brother calls it a failed business.
It's a bad contract. I tell you that, it's a bad contract.
Hey, take the positive out of it.
I have a hard time believing that Avril and Tyga are dating, but we can move on.
well,
Actually, what's
know
her
what they're
name?
talking about.
I don't know. I be seeing. You know what? I can't see. This is why I try to just focus on work. Forget. I don't want to talk about it. Never mind.
do we have time for one more story? We're kind of coming up at the end of the hour here.
No, we got.
We got a few more.
Oh
sets.
well, yeah, we're technically at the hour. Dang,
Okay.
that went by.
Yeah, it kind of flew by today. I mean, I got one more we can throw out. It's an SEC Coinbase story. I don't know if I mean, it's not Avril Lavigne or anything, but it might be interesting. Apparently, so the story that we've been talking about and tracking for a while, SEC suing everybody, Coinbase, Binance. They apparently it was released or leaked or somehow sent to the public that the SEC had asked Coinbase to delist every cryptocurrency except for Bitcoin just before deciding to sue them, which sort of tells you a little bit more about where the SEC's head at. There was suspicion that they considered every crypto but Bitcoin to be a security, but now that kind of like tells you where the current opinion of the SEC's administration is at, that they actually do consider Bitcoin to be some kind of a commodity and not, and every other crypto not. And today, obviously, Coinbase disagrees with this characterization. Today, they filed to have the entire lawsuit dismissed because they don't trade securities. And they completely disagree with the characterization, but they're also kind of like leaning on this thing that just happened with the Ripple case, saying, you know, courts just said that it wasn't security, so I don't know what these guys are talking about. I just think there's going to be some interesting implications. That Coinbase case is still looking to be a landmark case in this SEC. Is crypto security? How are we going to regulate it?
So I do want to take a stand and say that I completely appreciate what Brian Armstrong is doing basically for all of us, because if you take a look at what Coinbase, their actual ultimate mission is, it's decentralization and allowing everybody worldwide.
Similar with Binance
property,
too.
You know, so they're actually doing this fight for us without anybody even understanding it, because they do. So I'm actually happy about that. That's good news.
Yeah.
And I do like that they have plenty of people that they can actually talk to try to figure out, you know, how to make their next move. So
Right. Yeah.
corporations do pretty good work as an entity to try to stay alive, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's one of those times where the motivations and corporate interests are aligned with individual liberty.
Would be a hard interview for them to explain afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. Our whole industry disappeared.
We
I'm
can't
looking for
talk
a new
about
one.
its litigation.
Right.
You know, you could just do the beginning of this show and the very end, cut out all the middle, and it'd be a nice little tech finance thing.
That's how I feel about basketball. Why don't they just get them all on a bike for 45
First
minutes,
5 minutes
and
and then
let them play for like 3?
I happen to enjoy
She might have some opinions on
basketball.
I also disagree with that.
Yeah.
But the middle part is what I love.
Hot
the
take.
round
Hot
table.
take.
I am a sports idiot, so we'll go there. We will
just do
say
the
that.
last 2 minutes of every half for football, and you're done. Less
Yeah, you're done.
injuries.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it seems off the rails, but I really have a vision for this channel going into the conversations y'all have in the middle, the intersections of,
See?
you know, business, HR, and these, you know, more philosophical, political implications of the innovations and legislation happening right now. So I think that I loved it.
Good.
hey, we got a
we're here to
thumbs up
please.
from a millennial.
Wow.
Whoa,
that's-
whoa.
Wait a minute.
Don't
That is
call me
amazing.
that.
He said, "Don't." That's
You
what he
Gen
has
Z?
problem with. Yeah, he's Gen Z. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
Remember-
I'm definitely
I am
not
so
Gen Z.
sorry.
I'm not Gen Z.
I would not have, if I had known that you were not a millennial, I never would have insulted you. And that what I mean is, okay, so here's what I'm saying.
Wait. Before you say this, I'm definitely a millennial. I'm 94, but I would like to claim the oldest of the cuspers.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
way off.
I'm
It's
not
82.
I'm not Ryan millennial. Or is Ryan
Elderberry.
He's elder. Yeah.
Elderberry.
Ryan's elderberry. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait,
I'm
what'd you say
older
is the
than
cutoff, Jim?
Ryan.
82
old
is
is Ryan?
about as far as you can claim before you were Gen X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That starts about 81, 82.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. So wait, what? So what am
If you were
I?
born after 81 or 2, you were a millennial.
If you're born after 81, okay.
Yeah, that's
I'm a
about the cutoff.
millennial. Wait, that doesn't.
Wait,
even
how much do you
sound-
spend a week on lattes? 'Cause
Me?
I think that's the barometer.
That's why they can't
And
afford
avocado
houses.
toast. In all seriousness, the most fun book I ever read on generational studies was called 13th Gen, and it was like a profile of Gen X when we were right smack in the middle of us being, young adults.
That's the most boomer thing you've ever said.
It was written by a couple boomers.
Oh, that explains
So
it.
yeah, I read it when I was very young, in my young 20s. So, but it was a very good like picture They dug deep, and I think they painted a really accurate picture of Gen X, which, you know.
There's good pictures in the book. Is that?
No, there were no pictures.
Yeah.
That was the benefit of being in Gen X. There were no pictures. There was no proof.
Yeah.
There was
a couple of Polaroids, and that was about it. Yeah.
I love
sepia tone.
There are so many of these coming out now that actually show like what Gen X really was, and like some guy shirtless with a beanie on saying, "Wait, so can you explain the drinking out of a hot water hose for me? Was there not a sink available?"
That one, yeah.
No,
there wasn't a sink.
We weren't allowed in the house. It is so good.
Yeah.
On that
That's
note,
pretty funny. Yeah, I've seen that one.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a show for the week, I suppose. Unless you got anything else, any last tags out for it. You got it? You feel like you got everything out?
Yeah.
Great. I feel like that as well. So let's go ahead and call it a day, and we'll see you again next week on this show. Hey, thanks for watching The Merge. We've got a ton more stuff for you to watch on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Check us out.